All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Hope you guys had a good Labor Day, good little break, 2 weeks, and then you get a day off, and now we don't get a break until Thanksgiving, I think. So that's unfortunate, but semester will go by quickly. All right, so I'm recording on Zoom. So like I told you guys last time, I think I sent a link out. If you have to miss class and want to participate virtually, you can log on to or just click on the link I gave you, or maybe you might have to enter that number, and if I need to provide that again or whatever, just let me know. And then you can watch live, listen live, you can contribute, you can turn your microphone on, and well, I think I've got this one turned off actually, so I don't know, you can give me a call on the cell phone, or I think if you message, I think it lets me know that. So you can do that, but I'm also recording it at the same time, and so I'll record it and place it on YouTube. So if you can't watch it, you can't be here, you can't watch it virtually live, I guess, then you can go to the YouTube channel and watch it there. So hopefully you find that useful. It's not a lot more work on my part, so I don't mind doing it at all. All right, last time let's see, we took a quiz last time, right? It's been a little while. Yeah, I don't have those graded yet, but we'll hopefully get that done here in next week or so. It was worth 15 points, so not a huge deal. If you didn't get it complete or didn't get 100% on it, it's not going to mess the rest of your semester up by any means, but hopefully it gave you an idea of kind of how our quizzes or tests will go in here. And I don't know, our next one will probably be in a couple weeks or so, 2.5 weeks, and it'll be over lookup functions. And that's where we left off last time before we took the quiz, was the VLOOKUP. So we'll continue with that, and I don't remember the exact spot we left off, but if you want to go ahead and open up your book files, your chapter file, or practice files, and go to chapter 2. So hopefully you download those somewhere, whether it's the H drive or whatever it is, or your own jump drive. Click on chapter 2, practice files, and let's go look up. I already got it open. Lookup.xlsx. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bigger. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. Let's see that. Okay, what do I have going on here? Okay, so as you go through chapter 2, the book author goes through a couple examples, and we're going to start off with the one that he covers on page 18. So given a product ID, how can I look up the product's price? So over here on this spreadsheet, we're in I don't know, H9, that area. So it's where we have this table, and we've got a product ID and a price. So maybe you run a store or you're selling some merchandise and you have these different product IDs. A134, the price of A134 is $3.50. The price of B242 is $4.20, and so on. So this is our lookup table, and then we want to be able to write a formula that pulls the right dollar value from that lookup table. So down here, let's suppose we enter B2211. Well, it should go up here and it ought to choose $5.20. It's not, because he's got it formulated incorrectly. Let's go ahead and delete these those formulas, and we'll do it from the beginning. Okay, so on my spreadsheets, like I've shown you before, I'm going to format just a little bit. I think it looks a little neater if we do this. And what I might do is I might make this a blue cell. And I'm going to delete this other one. We only need one at this point. I don't know why that one's yellow. So it's, he kind of has some sloppy spreadsheets that he uses. All right, so if you want to format yours like this, you can. And the reason I go back over here, the reason I make mine blue here is this is a user entered value. This is something that I can change. It's an input into my calculator or my model or whatever. And so I can enter B2211, or I might want to enter A134. And capitalization doesn't matter here with our lookup functions. So I could have made that a capital A, but it doesn't really matter. But I just want to be able to enter something here. So B2211. Enter an ID, and then I want the price to appear. And so I color that blue because that's something I can change. There's not a formula behind it. I can change it as needed. Okay, the price. So we know we want $5.20 to appear when we put in B2211. And we can do this using a VLOOKUP. And so let's go ahead and do equals and VLOOKUP open parenthesis. So you type equals VLOOKUP and then an open parenthesis, and that tells Excel that you're entering you're using a function. You're entering a formula here. Okay, and talked about this before. Right here it gives you the arguments. We have 4 arguments in this function. The first one being lookup value, then table array, column index number, and range lookup. If you want, you can click on the FX and use the dialog box. So I'll go ahead and do that. I would guess any of you want to use that, and that's fine. So the first one's lookup value. What do you think our lookup value is? B2211. It's that cell. It's our blue cell. So it's H18 if you've got the same spreadsheet I've got. If yours is in a different cell, it may be something different, but it's that blue cell. So H18. So we want to look up whatever's in H18. We want to look that up in our lookup table. And that's what our next argument is. So this table array. This is the table of text or numbers or logical values in which data is retrieved. So our table is this table up here. Why does it say lookup 2? What's that? Well, there's 2 columns, but you remember what I went over last time? What's the book author like to do? Likes to name cell ranges. So normally, if this was my spreadsheet, it wouldn't say lookup 2, but he's already defined that set of cells and gave it a name, lookup 2. That's why it says that. Mine would say H11 colon I15, which means H11 through I15. And I would do that, and I'd absolutely reference it. But he does it this way, so we'll work with that. You'll see many examples where we don't use named ranges. Okay, so that's our table array. What's our column index number? 2. Why is it 2? Because we want what's in the second column. We want to report back what's out of the second column. So yeah, it's 2. You can hardwire that in here. I'm fine with that. Later I'll show you how you can make that a formula. And then lastly, range lookup. This is either a true-false argument, and it's going to be false if we want an exact match, true if we want an approximate match. What do we want here? False. We want an exact match. We don't want something close to B2211, like B2210. That isn't what we want, so we want an exact match. If an exact match doesn't exist, then it'll give us an error. It'll give, say, NA, not applicable, and that's fine. It's good to know that. So hit enter, and you should get 5.2 or $5.20. You may have to format it. It doesn't format it the way it is in the table, so you may have to go up here and we can give it currency, or it's like he did accounting, which is fine, whatever. You want to be consistent with that. And now we can test it out and see if it works. You should be able to type in another product ID. I'll go X212, and I get $4.80. You should be able to go through all of those, and it should pull out the right value. Any questions on that so far? Okay, I'm going to show you one other thing that I think is useful on these types of problems, and that is the product ID here is pretty short. It doesn't take long to enter that. But what if we have social security numbers? We don't want to enter 9 digits or many. How many's in a social security number? You don't want to have to enter that all the time. And so what we could do is create a drop-down list. And we can do that by selecting our blue cell, going up to this out of the way. Down here with it. Go to Data tab and go to Data Validation over here under Data, on the Data Tools menu. And then click on Data Validation, and it should bring up this box here. And what this box does, what Data Validation does, it says, you can limit what type of values, text, numbers, whatever goes in that cell. So I can say restrict it to, right now it's on any value. You can enter anything. I might want to restrict it to a whole number or a date or a time or something like that. What we want to do here is restrict it to a list. So go ahead and allow a list, and then it asks for a source. So we want our list to come from this data over here, this product ID. So I'm going to click on this little box here, and that allows me to select a list, and I'm going to select cells H11 through H15, and then you can hit enter and then click OK. So you do that, and now you can click on this, and we've got a drop down. And so we're restricting the values in that blue cell to be something that's on the list. So if I try to enter something else, it's going to say it's not valid. So give me a chance to redo it, and I can still type in if I want. So doesn't keep you from doing that, but it also gives you a drop down. So that can be helpful. Yes?
Is there a way to get it with like there being 2 B's, or you have to put a B in and then it's limit to 2 drop down?
Oh, I see. So you're saying if I enter just a B, then I could enter, no. You're saying, is that what you're saying? Yeah. No, that's a good question. I don't know. There's other fancier types of list boxes that you can do as well. I don't think I've ever seen any that do that. But my answer to most things like that is there probably is a way. It's just a matter of probably, if you went through macros and did a bunch of other things, you probably could do something like that. Yep. Good question. All right. So that just kind of is another useful feature to make these types of tasks simpler. All right. In the example that the row that I deleted, the book author had the wrong answer. He had B2211 and he had $3.50 on it. The way he got that was he was showing that if you put true here as the last, then you get, let's see, do B. So here, if you put your last argument as true, this is showing what you shouldn't do. It shows you that it messes up. And I don't know exactly why it works like this. Actually, I think I do. Let's see, if I go X212. X212 works. Let me see C413. I'm trying to make sense of this. Okay. it's finding an approximate match, which is obviously not what we want to do here. It'll find, like if I type in C413, it finds C413, but then it goes back to the previous closest match to that, I guess. It goes to B242, because B is right before C, which doesn't make sense to me. Yes?
What would you use the true for?
Good question, and we'll go here, maybe right now, in fact, and look at one where you would want to use that. So earlier I told you we haven't seen H lookup yet. We're going through V lookup. I would say 9 times out of 10, if I'm using a lookup, I'm using V lookup. I seldomly use H lookup. Not never. I do it sometimes, but mostly V lookup. Same thing with this. When I use a V lookup, I'd say 8 or 9 times out of 10, I'm using false as my last argument. But there are cases where you would use true, and I'll show you that right here. All right. Let's go ahead and, I guess, work with what he's got here. So if you scroll over to the left a little bit, this is a very messy spreadsheet. It drives me nuts. Let's work with this income rate table he's got. So now we're focused on this, and let's delete cells, what am I, E13 through F17. So I'm not actually wanting to delete cells and move things over. I just highlight it and hit the delete button, so it just clears it. Okay, and I'm going to just format this slightly. I just kind of like making it stand out a little bit. This is my own personal preference. These could actually be dollar amounts. So I'm going to give them currency with 0 decimals. And these could be percentages. And true, false, that doesn't need to be there. Okay, so I've got 2 tables like this. Okay, so this is looking at income taxes. And any of you guys done taxes yet on your personal business or whatever? Yeah, so you guys make any income, I don't remember what the limits are, but you need to do your taxes and fill out forms, and then they decide how many dollars worth of taxes they should have, whether or not you overpaid or underpaid, and you get a refund and all that. But the way income taxes work, I'm sure most of you guys know this, but you're taxed on your income, and you're taxed different percentages based on your income. And we have a progressive tax schedule in the United States, which means that the more money you make, the higher tax bracket you fall into. So the more taxes on a percentage basis you pay on ordinary income. Capital gains and things like that are slightly different. The way it works is using this tax schedule, and we can go to an IRS website and get the exact numbers. It's going to be definitely different than this, but let's just go with these right now. It basically says that if you make 0, I'm on page 16, if you want to look at the book, it says if your income level, and it puts it in a neater table than what you see up here. And actually it'd be useful for you to see this. And if I show it on there, you can't see it on the recording. Let me try something real quick here. Pause share. Let's see. I don't know what I want to do. I'd like to show it on the camera. If I want to pause share, if I want to stop share. There it is. Okay, so for those of you And those of you who don't have a book, I'm going to try this. This may not work. So can you see that table? It's not clear. There. It's backwards. How's that work? Huh. Okay, that one stumps me. Why would that be backwards? Here we go. Let's try this. This will be backwards as well. What in the world? Anybody figure that one out? It's like a puzzle for the day. Why is that backwards? I guess it's not a document can. It's like looking in the mirror and whatever. All right, so forget that. Learn something every day. Okay, if you just have to take my word on it here. Or look at table 2.1 on page 16. It says income level. If you make 0 to $9,999, your tax rate's 15%. So I guess I can just write it up here. 0 to $9,999 is 15%. If you make 10,000 to 29,999, you're at 30%. If you're at 30,000 to 99,999, 34%, and anything 100,000 plus, you're at 40%. So tell me this: if someone makes $50,000, what tax bracket are they in? 34%, right? Third one. Does that mean all $50,000 are taxed at 34%? You say no. Why?
Because between 0 and 10,000, you're taxed at 15%.
Yeah. So your first 9,999 are taxed at this, and then those dollars from 10,000 to 29.99 are taxed at this. So how many dollars would you actually have taxed at? 34.
What was income?
50,000. 20,000. Yep. So 20,000 would be taxed at this, and so on. 19,999 taxed at this, and 9,999 taxed at 15%. So that's the way a tax schedule works. This isn't a tax class, but I just wanted to let you know that because you will be dealing with taxes the rest of your life. All right, so what we want here is what is our marginal tax bracket. So the marginal tax bracket for someone making $50,000 is 34%. Marginal tax bracket means this is what each additional dollar you earn is going to be taxed at. So every dollar you make over $50,000, the government's going to take 34 cents of that. So that's what we want. So on a test, I would probably give you a table like this. Like that you see in table 2.1. And then you would have to put it into Excel like what we have here. And you'll notice we have 0, 10,000, 30,000, 100,000. In Excel, you can't, well, you can, but if you enter this like you see in the table in the book, Excel doesn't know what to do with that. If you enter that, it sees that, and it actually sees it as text. Look at how it's aligned. It's over on the left side of the cell. So it doesn't even see that as not a number. It just thinks I could enter my name, and it would make as much sense to it as how it sees that. It just, so you can't enter it like that. What you do is enter the low end of the range. So you notice we have 0 here. That's the low end of this range. 10,000 is the low end of 10,000 to 29,999. 30,000 is the low end of this range, 100,000 there. So that's just something you have to remember is when you're using a VLOOKUP for something that's a table like this, you need to enter the low end of the range. All right, so now we can use this table here. Let's go down to this. I don't know that negative 1,000's the one we should start with. Let's change this to positive 1,000 for now. We can change it back to negative 1,000 when we're all done, but I don't think that's a good one to start with. All right, so we want a formula here. So if someone makes $1,000, we can look at this table and know that the marginal tax bracket's 15%, but we want to have this formula based. So let's go ahead and do equals VLOOKUP. What do you suppose our lookup value is going to be? Our lookup value, I didn't make it blue, we could, is going to be this D13. It's going to be the $1,000. We want to look up $1,000 in our table. Our table, this is table array. Again, you could be using this FX. Our table array is going to be our tax schedule, which would be D6 through E9 if we didn't have, if we weren't working with the author's spreadsheet where he already named it. He named it lookup. That's why the other one was lookup 2, because he already had a lookup 1, essentially, lookup 2. So that's why it says lookup. Column index number 2. We want 2 because this is what we want to actually report back from. We want to report numbers, which in this case a percentage, from the second column of our table. And then here is where, are we going to find an exact match? If we're trying to look for $1,000, remember this was our lookup value, we're looking for that in this table. We're looking for it in the leftmost column of our table, which, are we going to find $1,000 here? No. If you look for an exact match, it's going to come back and say NA, not applicable. There is no exactly $1,000. So this is where we want to find an approximate match. So we type in true. Okay. And I should also note that the first column needs to be sorted in ascending order, so from least to greatest. It tells you that right here. So click OK, and you get 0.15, or let's go 15%. Change it to percentage. So this is how the true argument works. It's finding an approximate match. And some of this, it may not make the most logical sense. It's just, you got to remember that's the way VLOOKUP works when you're trying to find an approximate match. It looks for, so it's going this $1,000. It's looking for $1,000 over here. It's not looking for an exact match, but it's looking at where does it fit in, basically. And so what it does, it says it keeps going down the column here until it finds a number greater than itself. So it goes and says, all right, 10,000 is more than 1,000. So I need to go back up to this next row and put in 15%. Yep.
So if you have like 9,090, 9,990, would it go up to 10,000? Or it will go down to 0?
Yes. Or you're saying if I had 9,999, which is the top, yes, it'll still be 15%. I could enter 9,900. I could get, well, that's what I want to do. I can put a bunch of decimals there too. At some point it probably kicks over, but so I've got as close as I can get to $10,000. So it's looking for that, or it's looking for the first number that's greater than that, and it finds it here at 10,000, then it knows to jump back up to the one previous. All right, so we should be able to copy this down and see if it works. And it looks like it does. So this says 10,000, but I've actually got this 9,999. I'll put back at 1,000. So $30,000 ought to be in the 34% range or tax bracket. 98,000 ought to be in 34%. 104,000 in 40%. Any questions on that? So there's several things you have to remember. First one being you need your table in ascending order. The leftmost column of your table, which is this here, needs to be in ascending order. I can't have them in there as like 30,000 and then 10,000. It needs to be in ascending order. Secondly, we want to enter our last argument as true here. We entered false. I can show you that. If you're just so used to entering false there, it's going to give you errors all the way down, except on this 30,000, because it actually does find that in the table. I need that to be true. Earlier, they had negative 1,000 entered here, and you get an error. It's not applicable. So, because that's less than the lowest in our table, that's 0. So what do we do if we want negative 1,000? Say, instead of having an error, because I don't like spreadsheets that are full of errors, what if I want that to say 0? How can I do that? So rather than have this NA, because say some people, you can report negative income or loss, they don't pay you, you can carry that over into the next year. So, but let's just say we want 0 here. Anybody think of a way we could do that? There's something called if error. I haven't shown this to you. I guess I was just seeing if anybody's come across that yet. If you're getting errors in there and you understand why you're getting errors, which in this case we do. We're getting an error because we have a negative value. And let's say if we get an error, that's really the only type of error I should get. We want the text to be 0. You can use if error. So in front of my VLOOKUP, I'm going to type in if error. So I type if error and then open parenthesis. So I'm nesting the VLOOKUP function within the if error function. So it's saying if you get an error when you calculate this VLOOKUP, you need to go to the end of the VLOOKUP then. So after this parentheses, put a comma in, and then here you tell Excel what you want to do, what you want it to do if it comes across an error. In this case, we want to enter 0. We just type in 0. So we just started with our VLOOKUP just as we had it, and then just went at the front and said, all right, I'm going to put an if error around this. When you do that, now you get 0. And you can copy that down, and it doesn't change the rest of it, because that was the only time we're going to get an error is if we put in a negative number. If we put in a negative number, you get an error. We know we want to change that error to just simply a 0. Okay, so now you've seen one with an exact match. So in a VLOOKUP where we want to find an exact match, and then also where we want to find an approximate match like we did here. We'll go through several more examples of using each of those. Let's look at, let's see which one I want to go with. Okay, let's go ahead and close this one. And you can save it or not, doesn't matter. And what I want to do is go to this Pine Valley. So again, Chapter 2, Practice Files, Pine Valley. Okay, so what I'm working on actually is problem number 7 on page 21, where it says in the Pine Valley file, the first worksheet contains the salaries of several employees at Pine Valley University. The second worksheet contains the age of the employees. And the third worksheet contains the years of experience. Create a fourth worksheet that contains the salary, age, and experience for each employee. Okay, so as we look at these, we have salary. Here's Adam, makes $150 a day or $150,000 a year. I don't know what it is. And we have these others as well. And this next one, looks like we've got the same people listed there, and we have their age and then experience. Okay, I don't know if they're in the same order or not. Looks like they're not. It's the same people, but they're not in the same order, which isn't a big deal. All right, so what we want to do is create a fourth worksheet. And so you hit that plus sign, and it creates a new worksheet. So I just hit that plus sign, and now you have a sheet 1. And you can move it to wherever you want. Let's put it at start here. And what I want is to create a table that has the name of the person, the salary, the age, and experience. So I want this all on one spreadsheet. I don't like having to flip back and forth between them. And so I need the names of the people. I can go to any of these tabs. I'm going to go to salary tab and copy the name list. So highlight it, hit Control C, or however you prefer to copy, and then paste it right there. I'm going to format this a little bit. You don't have to, but as you use this more and more, some of you will really appreciate having things formatted. Let's see. All right, so we've got our table now. We just need to populate it with the information. And we want to do it via formula. So for this first one, I'll help you with the first one, the salary, and then I'll have you guys do the age and experience on your own. So what formula do we want to use? What function, I guess? VLOOKUP. Let's use that. VLOOKUP, open parenthesis. All right. The first argument's lookup value. What do you think our lookup value is here? Adam? So B3, if yours might be, depending on where you put your table, some other place, but it's the atom. Our table array, what do we need to do for this? Go to the salary tab and highlight the table. And you'll see it says look sal. So he means a lookup salary table. He's already named that. Again, if we weren't working off his spreadsheet, mine would say B3 through C12. I'd highlight that and I'd absolutely reference it. So then put a comma. That tells you, Excel, you're ready for the next argument. What's our column index number? 2. Exactly. Because we want to report back what's in column 2. True or false? False. We want an exact match. So B3, comma, look sal, comma, 2, comma, false. That's it. Hit enter. Get 150. Now you should be able to copy it down. And appears to be correct. Again, they don't have to be in the same order. So over here, I could have them in alphabetical order, and here they're not. It's all right. Okay, so now do the same thing for age and experience. Very similar. Give you a few minutes to do that, and then we'll do one more thing with it. recording. So I apologize to those of you watching this on the recording. I just forgot to resume, so you missed out on about 3 minutes worth of me talking, which may be a good deal. I don't know. All right, so we create our table, and then we're creating this lookup calculator. So I guess basically all I did is format this, and I'm creating a drop-down list in this blue cell by going to data validation, allow a list, and then restrict it to these cells right here. I click OK, and now you'll see the names appear here. So I can select a name. Now I want to have the salary, age, and experience. I want to have those numbers appear there when I select this person's name. So if I select Amanda, I want her salary, age, and experience to show up here. You will use this table that we just created, this one here. So you don't have to go across sheets. We've already done that. Put it all in one summary table right here. Now we're wanting to further sort through that and just focus on one person, whoever we select here. Okay? Anybody confused on what I'm asking for? Okay, makes sense. So if you can put the drop down in there, you ought to be able to select whichever one you want and have their salary, age, and experience, and you'll use this data in the table that you just created. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And pause. Okay, I'm recording again. We're going to go over how to complete this calculator. And I think a lot of you, most of you got the first one. You said, all right, that's going to be a VLOOKUP. And we want to look up this name. It happens to be a blue cell here. We want to look up the name Amanda. And then here's my table. Some of you just highlighted these first two columns. And that's all. And it probably worked for you. It actually would. But again, I want you to always be thinking about how can I do this more efficient, how can I save time, because that's what Excel's all about, is making data processing more efficient. So I'm going to highlight the whole table because I know eventually I want to pull the experience out of there, and it comes out of this entire table. So you can highlight the whole table, and I'm just going to kind of show you. I'm not going to show you the exact correct way the first time. I'll just keep doing it this way, and then we'll go back and look at what I should have done different. All right, what's my column index number here? We want the A, or salary, it's going to be 2. Because looking at my table, which you can see highlighted right now, salary appears in the second column of my defined table. So I'm looking for the name Amanda. And by default, it's looking in the leftmost column of our table. It finds Amanda, and I'm saying report back what's in row or column 2. And then I want an exact match. And so you might have did it that way. You got 132. And that is correct. And then you may think, all right, let's just copy it over. And you say, all right, well, Amanda, 132, 36, 23, got it. So it must be working. And you can try a few others, and looks like it's working. The problem with this is that you're kind of getting lucky that it's working. It's not going to work all the time. It's not the best way. Sometimes it'll work 100% of the time. Other times I could change the data around and it may work 20% of the time. Okay, so let's see what's going on. Let me double click this. So let's analyze the VLOOKUP that's in this cell. Okay, the lookup value is H3, so it's looking up 140. It's looking up dollar amount in this table here. And it's doing the leftmost column, so it's finding 140 here, and then we're saying report back what's in the second column of our table, which is age, so it's working. But what's wrong with this? Can you see why this might not work? Exactly. We had two salaries that were 140. So I can show you that. Let's change, let's see, this was Aiden. Let me change Adams to 140. Now it says Aiden, salary 140, which is correct, experience 43, because it's going off of this one now. So if you have multiple salaries that are the same, it won't work. So what should we do instead? Our lookup value, if we're always saying, our lookup value is always going to be what? What's that? G3, exactly. It's always going to be my blue cell. So I'm going to hit F4 on that. I always want to be going off the name. I don't want to have a salary as my lookup value. I want to be looking at, focused on the name, looking for that in this table array. Do I need to do anything else? Absolute value of your table. We don't want the table switching on us. So I highlight all that and hit F4. So now I have dollar signs in front of the columns and the rows. So B3 through E12 is all absolute reference. That table is always going to stay the same. So now I do that. If I copy it over, I get 140s across the board. Now what's wrong? Change 2 to a 3, exactly. So change the 2 to a 3, and this one, 2 to a 4. Now it works, and it will work as long as you don't have two people with the same name. So, which if you have very many people, there's just a chance that you could have that. And so you may want to throw last names in there as well. There's different ways we can do that. If you have someone with the same first name, last name, you need one more bit of information. All right. Any questions there? So the key is, like when I'm over here, I still want to be using this as my lookup value. I still want my table to be exactly the same. So this is a case where we had to absolute reference the table because I didn't name the table already. Like the book author, he always names it. If you name it, then you copy it over. It's as if it was absolute referenced. So you don't have to worry about that. So I guess that's one benefit of doing that. Question you may have is, what if I didn't want to changing this 2 to a 3 and the 2 to a 4? That's kind of a pain, and I agree. At this point, you don't need to know anything beyond that. I'm fine with you hardwiring that in there and changing it, but you can automate that as well. And just to show you, you aren't expected to know this at this point, but what you can do is use a match function, and I'm going to match this. I'm not even going to spend a whole lot of time explaining the details of this because you don't need it now. But I'm looking for that in this lookup array, absolute reference that, and I want an exact match, 0. So you throw that in there, and now I can copy this over. Be way faster than just typing in 2, 3, 4. At this point, you're right. But here in about, maybe not next class period, but next week, we're going to go over the match function. And you'll get a lot of experience using that. And then I think you'll be fine with bringing it in at that point because you understand what it does. Because if you had a table that had 50 columns, that'd be a lot of changing 2s to 40, 41, and whatever. So, all right. So now we've got a pretty useful tool. We took it from having the data over here on all these sheets to bringing them all together in one table to now we can go through here and select one person and everything is brought up. So that could save you a lot of time in the future if you're constantly having to come up with these employees' information. All right. I am recording that, yes. Let's see. we'll go through one more example. And I should mention that on Thursday, I've got to be out at a field site. We've got Farm Bureau Ag Day or Kids Day or whatever it is. Got a bunch of fourth graders from local area. They're coming out to a farm, and I've got to do a station on drones. So I've got like 250 fourth graders coming out in groups of 20, and so I'm going to be flying drones all day for them and talking about that. So I'm not going to be here, and since this isn't technically a virtual class, I won't record a lecture and make you watch it. So we're just not going to have class on Thursday. So this takes it easy on you. Get Labor Day off, and I turn around and give you Thursday off. So, but what I would encourage you to do is, if you're struggling with this, work through it. Take that time. Come in here. The classroom will be open. Go through these. And the great thing about this, I don't know if it's great or not, but most of us tend to have kind of short memories, forgetful memories. So you could probably come back on Thursday and try some of these exact things, and it'd be like a whole new problem to you. Like I said, that's not necessarily a good thing, but it's reality, and it probably happened to me too. And so see if you can do it. See if you can do exactly what we did today on Thursday. If you can, you're in great shape. If you can't, watch this video and as needed to help you out. All right, let's do one more problem. And trying to think. Okay, let's do number. Did we do number one? Let me see what this HR is real quick here. We did this one, I believe, last time. I'm just trying to decide which one I want to give you. Let's do number 3. Number 3 on page 20. And this says, you are thinking of advertising Microsoft products on a sports telecast. As you buy more ads, the price of each ad decreases as shown in the following table. So if you purchase 1 to 5 ads, this is ads, and price per ad. If you purchase 1 to 5 ads, you pay $12,000 per ad. If you purchase 6 to 10, you pay $11,000 per ad. 11 to 20, $10,000 per ad. We're giving you a volume discount. 21 plus, you pay $9,000 per ad. So they're cutting you a deal. And you can just open up a blank spreadsheet. You don't need to save that if you don't want or whatever. And what I'd like you to be able to do is create a calculator. So you're going to have a table. You need to create a table first. This is similar to the tax bracket example I just gave you. It's that style of problem. So you're going to create a table, and then off to the side of that, I want you to create a calculator that says, all right, you enter in number of ads and cost per ad, and then maybe total cost. Ultimately, this is what I want you to do or have. So you might type in, all right, I buy 15 ads. This should then populate and say, all right, it's going to cost you $10,000 per ad. And then you should be able to calculate your total cost. But before you can do that, you need to have a table, a lookup table. So I'll give you a few minutes to create that lookup table. I won't do it for you quite yet. See if you can do it, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, I'm going to start working through it. You continue working on your own. And it'll take me just a little bit to catch up to where some of you guys are. So first thing is to create a table. And as I said in class, Excel does not understand. So if we have price per ad, you can't put 1-5. It thinks that's, you're actually saying January 5th. And if you do 6-10, it's going to think June 10. 11-20 is November. And then you put 21 plus. It It just doesn't know what to do with that. So actually, I'm going to undo those because it actually formats it when you do that. So what we need to do is enter the low end of each range. So as I look at my table, or the table on page 20, I see the low end of each range is 1, 6, 11, and 21. So just something you have to remember. That's how Excel deals with ranges and deals with this VLOOKUP in this type of problem. Price per ad, we got 12,000, 11,000, 10,000, and 9,000. If you want to format these, you can. They're dollar amounts. You can do it as currency, and we don't need decimals. All right, so that is going to be our lookup table. Now I want a calculator where I can enter the number of ads purchased, and it should bring up the cost per ad and total cost. So there's going to be formulas here. This is something I just enter. And if you want, I'm typically would make this a blue cell. So when I look at my spreadsheets, if I see a blue cell, I know that's a value I enter. There's not formula behind it, so I can change it. I hesitate to do that all the time in here because I think then if I give you a test problem and don't give you a blue cell, it kind of confuses you. So I'm not going to in this case. All right, so we've got a number of ads. If I get 15 ads, I can look at my table in the book and easily see that each ad is going to cost me $10,000. So then my total cost is going to be $150,000. I want to automate this. So what do we do? Janelle, what did you do? Did you get it? VLOOKUP, yep. What's your lookup value? Okay, which is your 15, okay, in our example. So E3, whatever, however you have your spreadsheet organized. E3, what's your table array?
I just highlighted A3.
Okay, and mine's slightly different. Basically what I've got here, okay? And I'd get in the habit of just hitting F4 and absolute reference in it. But it's not necessary here unless we were going to copy it down or something. Column index number, 2, because we want to report back what's in the second column of our table. And finally, true or false? True. True is correct. We don't want false because, for example, 15 does not even appear over here. So if we put in false, it's going to look for that exact match, and it's going to say not available. So we want an approximate match, so it's true. We talked earlier about how Excel works with a VLOOKUP with the last argument true, and it's basically looking over here for, so it's looking for 15. It knows it's not looking for an exact match, so it's looking for it over here. It goes until it finds one just higher. So it's saying, all right, 11 isn't greater than 15, but 21 is. So then it jumps back to the previous row and gives you that one. So that's how it works. How do we formulate this? Total cost? Do we need to write the VLOOKUP again? No. Okay, E times F. So it's this one, E3 times F3, you get 150,000. You don't have to type in a VLOOKUP again and take that times E3. Once you've got it calculated here, just reference it. And now we can test it out. If I put 5 in there, you ought to get $60,000 total cost. You put in 100, you ought to get 900,000. Put in 0, oh, we get an error. What if we don't want an error? What if you don't buy anything? It should be 0. How might you handle this? You can use an if error. So I might use an if error here. So I'll show you that real quick, and then I'll show you one other way. So I'm putting an if error in front of my VLOOKUP, and then after my VLOOKUP, so I put if error parentheses, and I have my whole VLOOKUP that I had earlier. So after the VLOOKUP, I put another comma, and this is where I say value of error. We want it to be what if there's an error? 0. So you've now done a nested statement, a nested function. VLOOKUP is nested within an if error. So you do that, and that actually fixes the problem. If you didn't want to do an if error, you could just, well, that's probably the best way. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. If error is good. You could have actually, I guess, changed your table over here to 0, and then 12,000 shows up, and 0 times 12,000 is 0. But I think if error probably is fine rather than changing our table. All right, any questions? This making sense? See a few head nods. Okay. Like I said, 90% of the time your last argument is going to be false. Most of the time you're looking for an exact match. But occasionally when you want to do ranges like this, or like a grade book, that'd be an example you could throw together. What if someone make a 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89.99 is a B, and so on, and then you can create a grade book where it puts in the right letter grade based on your percent score. All right, that's all I've got. Reminder, no class on Thursday, but be looking at this, working on it, and we'll see you back here a week from today.